Hello again, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, in this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How's your Halloween? Did you gorge yourself sick on candy that you stole from scared children?
Well, see, as a grown-up, I just went to the store and bought myself candy.
Oh, see, where's the fun in that?
Well, it's a lot more practical.
Yeah, but, if you got to chase the little ones down, you get to work off the calories beforehand. So
Yeah, but I'm, practically crippled in my right foot, so the whole chasing thing, no, just doesn't happen.
She has to build the traps and then capture them and steal their candy.
Right, and honestly, I live in an apartment complex. There's almost no children here. So it'd mostly be me finding 20-somethings to, trip and rob.
Okay, I wouldn't have let that stop me, but, then again, my, heart is a cold black cinder that hasn't beat for 1,000 years. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Recovering from a little bit of a wet weekend. I had a bit of a wet Halloween. Got a lot of rain, but kind of a nice weekend.
Uneventful. I don't know. Is it just me, or not as many children out trick-or-treating as there were when I was a kid?
They're still trick-or-treating, but it's become more of a community situation. I know a lot of people around here, they do the trunk or treating, so they'll go over to their church or the park, and they kind of hang out there, and the kids go from, trunk to trunk, trick-or-treating, and it's a bit more of a community situation. I also live sort of in the middle of a medical complex, so I'm not going to get a lot of kids in my area trick-or-treating just because they won't want to cross a highway.
A medical complex?
I live near a medical complex.
Are you recording from Arkham Asylum? Is that where you're at right now?
No, I'm not recording. I know the joke you're trying to make, and I'm going to be that jerk to stop it. No, I just live near a lot of hospitals.
I wish I lived near some hospitals.
I have nothing to follow that up with. So
it's very it was a very matter of fact statement. Just I wish I did, and we're like, yes, that's probably good for you. Moving on.
And then,
I was waiting to see if there was more to that.
No, I just need to go to one all the time, and everybody knows it.
All right. Well, we got a lot of show for you tonight. Tonight we're discussing something that's been making the rounds for the last several weeks, and I'm kind of waiting to see what develops out of it. And that's the very real and looming possibility of a voice actor strike in the video game industry. So we're going to take a look at some of the things that have led to that and some of the greater ramifications of what can happen if this strike does, in fact, go forward. So that's going to be a rather interesting discussion. I anticipate learning a great deal because I know fuck all about the voice acting industry. So this will be a learning experience. So that'll be fun. But, of course, there is procedure to follow, so we're going to begin, as always, with Ask a Geek. And we've got some questions here. First one here is addressed to all the Bruce Campbell fans. Are you excited about the upcoming Ash vs. the Evil Dead series, and did you catch the premiere on Halloween? So this arrived just this morning. So, Brian, since you're apparently the only one here who saw it, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I was looking forward to it just because it's Ash and the Evil Dead. I'm a huge fan of that, and it's Sam Raimi getting the band back together. I enjoyed it for what it absolutely was. The first episode is just a return to form kind of thing. You kind of see where Ash is living his life, how the Evil Dead get released again, because he got released because he was trying to hook up with a girl, and he thought, hey, I can read from this book. It's not poetry, but she digs it. And he's like, oops, let loose the evil. Ash will do that. And it's kind of fun to see Ash where he is, what he's doing, and he gets back into the role. Some of the other parts of the show, I'm not as into it as of yet because they haven't released a lot. There's a lot of side characters and side stories they introduced, but they haven't fleshed out right away. Lucy Lawless's character, we have no idea who she is. There's also this detective character who gets involved because she goes to report on a house where the Evil Dead has attacked the people inside of it, and she has to kill her partner because he gets possessed. with a Dillinger that took 6 shots. Where, okay, guys, like, I don't want to be like that person in the room. A Dillinger has a bullet. One.
Okay.
A Derringer, perhaps?
Yeah, Derringer, whatever. Dillinger, Derringer. The gun that only can hold a bullet, and she fired it 6 times.
Well, I'd have to see it to see what models you're zooming, but there were Derringers made that that fired multiple bullets. They were just really fucking tiny.
Wasn't one of them. It was very obviously not one of them. This made me go. I mean, and I was like, it didn't take me out of the show. I'm like, God damn it, guys, come on! And then of course the next scene, Bruce Campbell gets attacked by an evil doll. So I was like, all right, this I guess just works with the ridiculousness of this show.
So it sounds like it's very much more in the style of Army of Darkness than, say, the first Evil Dead film.
It's a mixture of both. I feel more it's Army of Darkness was when Ash is on the screen, but then like the side characters sort of pop up, and it goes really back to the Evil Dead 1 or Evil Dead 2, where it's definitely creepy and morbid and tragic, because she has to kill her partner. The partner's like begging for her not to kill him. But I have to see where it goes. It's a very short series. It actually only runs about 40 minutes an episode. And my power went out at the very end of it, so I got a little bit freaked out. I don't know if that was part of the show or just, as you told me, God said, you're done for the day.
That is all you need to complete your evening is Bruce Campbell.
Well, I was like, but what about Hocus Pocus? That's still on.
Buy it already, damn it.
Okay. Alrighty. So, alright, cool. Alright, so that's that question here. Next question here. Well, that was from Ryan, by the way. I forgot to say who that's from. Next one here is from Jeff, and it is to all of us. And she writes that she recently saw a documentary about the history of the Batmobile, and she saw that Jeff Dunham had bought one of the Batmobiles from the Tim Burton films. If we could own a vehicle from our favorite film or television series, what would it be? So I think that the intent of this question is if we could own like one of the actual prop vehicles used in the film and not like an actual working DeLorean or whatever, what would it be? So Brian, let's start with you on this one.
I would answer, even though it doesn't exist, if they ever made like a replica of the Batman the Animated Series one, except I'm pretty sure that would be so long that if you went over a hill it would snap in half.
You're great on straightaways, but if you go over a hill, it'll snap like a Twix.
Yeah, but like, so I think the original, like the one from the first Tim Burton, the Michael Keaton one, was the best looking one. I actually saw one of the ones from Batman Forever when I did a Warner Brothers tour many years ago. They had it in there, like they had like a car, sort of small car exhibit you can go into, and that was one of them. That one actually looked like actually uncomfortable to be in. Like it looked like the cockpit looked super small. So I think the original Michael Keaton one is probably the one I would go for.
Let me tell you, that one from Batman Forever, the cockpit looks even smaller if you stuff Drew Carey in it. That's the thing I remember most clear about that Batmobile was the episode where, for no reason whatsoever, fucking Drew Carey won it in a contest, and he was just driving around in it throughout the episode. So, okay, Kat, what about you? What's a movie prop vehicle that you would like to own and be able to drive around and ride around in?
Well, since I am the anime fan, and Japan just so happens to have a big replica Gundam, a big replica Gundam that Japan has, if I were to go with something slightly more practical that I could actually take around, and I would actually like a Jurassic Park Jeep. I think that would be pretty cool. I was going to say DeLorean, but really what I want is a Jurassic Park Jeep.
No, which Jurassic Park Jeep? Because you have the Wrangler, then you had like the SUV. Because I feel like you could survive better with the Wrangler, because it probably could, well, until it rolls over.
Okay, we're talking prop vehicles. She's not actually going to have a T-Rex chasing after her.
Well, I mean, I might. I have to go to Jurassic Park to get the vehicle.
I'm just looking at all the possibilities. There's nothing wrong with planning ahead.
Both. I'll go with both.
Okay, let's see. I'll tell you the car that I would most like to have and be able to drive around. And I know that most people are gonna think I'm gonna say like the time machine from Back to the Future, the DeLorean. But the one that I really want, and it's gonna come from a really really strange fucking movie for anybody who knows me. But I want the car that Tom Cruise's character drove in Days of Thunder, the fucking Mellow Yellow sponsored NASCAR racer. I want that. That's the car that I want to be able to just tool around in.
You know how impractical NASCAR cars actually are on the open road? All you have is a frame and an engine. Everything else is plastic. It's like, yeah, I can go 200 miles an hour and then flip over and die.
I'm sorry. We live in a world where a fucking ventriloquist is tooling around in Tim Burton's Batmobile. How fucking impractical that was. I'm not allowed to have a NASCAR racer?
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. No fun for you.
Okay. All right. So let's see.
Do they even still make Mellow Yellow? Random thought of the day.
Yes, they do. We sell it at my work.
Okay. All right. Just curious.
It just has a really stupid fucking logo design now.
Most everything does.
Our last question here, this one is from Sean, and it is for all of us. And his question is, if you could be a character in any type of television show, what would it be? So, Kat, why don't we start with you on this one? Character in a television show.
Okay, well, first off, I would not want to be any character on Supernatural or Doctor Who or any kind of crime show at all, because I don't want to die. Shit. If I could extend this to anime, I would actually not mind being a side character in Naruto, because you'd get to be a ninja, and not like a stealthy in the night, like a fun ninja. That would actually be really cool.
A funja, as it were?
That sounds like food.
So you miss John, but you're going to make those kind of jokes when he's not here?
Okay, well, Billy's going to spend the rest of the time in the Pain Glove.
Look, I'm sorry. As much as I hate them, I can't end my day without hearing one of John's horrible puns. Like, I'm sorry. I just
it gets you to sleep at night.
Exactly. Like, every week he's not here, I'm just lying in bed, just like, damn it. I'm not pissed off at John, and it just it just keeps me up at night. Like,
what am I missing from my life? Oh, I'm not pissed off at John for a bad pun. That explains it.
And no amount of will put me to sleep after that. Just So yeah. Anyway, Brian, character in a TV show, who would you be?
Oh, I have no idea, because I'm sort of with Kat. Like, most of the shows I watch or enjoy, like, the characters die. And like even good side characters die eventually. Well, depends on how much of. This reminds me, I actually just got myself a book called Red Shirts, where it's a sci-fi book where in the future a Star Trek like universe is going on, but apparently through some weird means an old TV show narrative takes control of the ship that is going forward, and so like people's deaths are just the people like die constantly, and the other crew members start to realize this, and like, listen, if you're ever on like an away mission with this main character and this main character, your chances of survival are nil. But if you have this main character and then that guy dies, stick with him, because you already had like the one death of the episode, and you'll be fine. Like, that's like the whole that's like the whole book.
Man,
I think I've actually read that.
I think you actually lived that.
What's it actually called? Red Shirts?
Red Shirts.
I'll have to look it up.
Okay. But no, like, I would love to live in Star Trek and not be like a main character or a side character, but like an extra in the back that won't die and won't, and make sure I'm not on decks like 6 through 12, because they're the ones that always blow up.
Definitely don't want to be in engineering.
No, nowhere near engineer. When we get hit, make sure you stay away from panels. Because sparks just fly.
All right, okay. So for mine, I think I've got the best one ever, because this guy is fucking set for life. I want to be a police officer in the 1960s Adam West Batman series, specifically the one whose sole job it is to suggest to Commissioner Gordon to call Batman whenever there's a crime. Because you're guest. Let me think about it. That's like your fucking dream job. You're basically paid to just sit around, do nothing until something happens. Perhaps we should call Batman. Punch out. Job's over. See you next week.
That is an oddly specific choice, but you're right. It does sound pretty nice.
Yeah, it's we installed this red phone for a reason. Let us use it.
Boy, I tell you what I really would not want to be. I would not want to be a love interest on Arrow or Flash.
Oh, yeah. You have a countdown clock at that point.
Yeah, it's like the same thing as being a love interest on Supernatural, except on Supernatural your death will be really gruesome.
And probably fitting for a heavy metal album cover.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, but that's all the Ask a Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdofthethirdpower.com. We also have, if you're one of our Facebook faithful, a permanent Ask a Geek thread that you can submit your questions to. So get your questions in. We love hearing from you guys, reading your questions out on the air. So, yeah. And so with that, we're going to jump right into our news segment this week, starting with Brian, because he's the only one here. So, Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzo, and welcome to a very light week of the multiverse headlines. The comic book industry is on its close and it's winding down. The next couple of weeks, heck, the next couple of months, news is going to be scarce at most. Everyone sort of winds down their last bit, and it picks up again back in January. So far, the only couple announcements I have is that Marvel is continuing to expand its Disney Kingdoms comic book series. The comic book series that's questionable at best, but has one good highlight into it. They're looking now to expand it out into a Haunted Mansion book. Yes, though this looks like there's be any relation to the Haunted Mansion movie that Guillermo del Toro is trying to pull out, or the Eddie Murphy movie. So a brand new story. Yay. Also in Marvel, finally this week, X-Men number 600 has finally come out, the long delayed. It was supposed to come out during the summer to mark the end of Brian Michael Bendis' run on the X-Men titles, and it's finally out now this November. This accumulates a lot of his storylines and also will probably lean into a lot of the relaunches that are currently going on right now over in Marvel with their post-Secret Wars that's still going on because Secret Wars is technically still going on. If I sound a little disappointed, I am. I don't like delays in my books. But that's all there is to it. Over in the TV world, it looks like Fox is getting their hands into another superhero title, but a bit of an obscure one here. They're looking to reboot The Greatest American Hero. The Greatest American Hero was debuted down back in, I'll say, the 80s or so, and they actually tried to reboot it with a Greatest American Heroine series, but didn't quite go through. No pilot's been filmed yet. They're just developing it right now, so there's not really sure if it will or will not come out to fruition. Over at DC, Jeff Johns is still pushing his Aquaman 7 Seas arc. It looks like it might be the next arc after the Darkseid Wars for the Justice League title, probably bringing into the Aquaman title as well, as we've actually learned that Colin Bunn has been not too happy with what happened on the internet, and because of which is leaving the Aquaman title. His last issue is actually issue 47. Probably not the best way you want to go out, but it's his choice, so more power to you, sir. Other than that, nothing going on, so I'm going to turn everything over to the anime goddess that we have on the show, Kat. Kat, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. Voice actress Matsuki Miyu passed away October 27th following a long battle with acute pneumonia. Matsuki was best known for her roles as Saginomiya Izumi in Hayate the Combat Butler, Magical Sapphire in the Prisma Ilia series, and more recently, Nishikino Miyana in Shimoneta. Matsuki had been sick since the beginning of the year and took a break from her work in July to concentrate on getting better. She was 38. Mangaka Miyata Koji passed away October 22nd due to a cerebral hemorrhage. He began his career in 2007, publishing his one-shot Neko de Tandem in Kadokawa's Comic Beam Fellows magazine. He serialized 3 manga through Comic Beam, Pictorial Book of Sound, Miyoko at Noon, and A Kiss for the Dog-God Princess. He was 34. Actress and idol Takabe Ai was arrested October 15th on drug possession charges. The Tokyo Sports newspaper is reporting that police found cocaine and psychotropic drugs upon searching her belongings. She tested positive for cocaine and is now being charged with drug use. Her agency, Oscar Promotions, has canceled their contract with her. Takabe debuted in 2009 as Manjobe Fumi in Aoihana. She also played SP in Sacred 7 and Goshiki Agiri in Kill Me Baby. She was also a member of the idol group Bishojo Club 31. Crunchyroll.com is partnering with Sumitomo Corporation to form a new company whose primary focus will be funding anime co-productions. The benefit of Crunchyroll's participation is that they can immediately acquire foreign distribution licenses without actually having to pay huge fees. Crunchyroll is the obvious choice for this kind of partnership, but Sumitomo kind of seems like an odd one. This is basically a really old mega corporation that deals in everything from chemicals and steel to insurance and automobiles, but they do have a media division, and earlier this year they partnered with Imagica Robot Holdings and the Cool Japan Fund to acquire the LA-based post-production company SDI Media, which specializes in foreign media content. So this looks like Sumitomo is branching out into the anime industry, which is kind of weird, but if you want to go in on a project financially, Sumitomo is a great choice. There's little information on what either party will be bringing to the table, but it is good news for the interconnectivity of the industry. There's also news circulating that Netflix will be entering into the anime production business as well. CEO Reed Hastings stated in an interview that he's hopeful Netflix will, quote, make a great anime show. They plan to produce more unique programming from production companies worldwide with a budget of around $5 billion for content. Netflix just launched in September in Japan and has been pretty successful with their original series, so it makes sense they'd want to branch out and make some anime of their own. It's what all the cool kids are doing. And finally, Guillermo del Toro stated in a recent interview that his planned TV adaptation of Urasawa Naoki's monster manga is officially out of HBO. He developed the project as a possible series for HBO, but is now pitching the project to other companies. Del Toro has written a few episodes as part of the pitch and hopes to get it going next year. New Line Cinema had originally acquired film rights, but Del Toro personally convinced Urasawa to let him take Monster on as a TV series. And that's all I've got going on in the anime and manga world. Over to you, Dr. Gonzo.
And that's all the headlines that we have for this week. We're going to take a quick musical break. When we come back, the looming voice actors strike. We're going to look at the circumstances that led up to its possibility and the ramifications if it occurs. So stay tuned. We got a lot of fun stuff ahead. All right, and we are back. And over the past, I want to say month or so, there's been a lot of flapdoodle and hoo-ha over a possible voice actor strike in the video game industry. A website put up by the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which we are going to be including a link to underneath this feed, lists the details. Long and short of it, from what I can see, is that it seems basically like voice actors are getting screwed out of residuals for video game work. But as I said at the start of this episode, I know fuck all about the voice acting industry, so I have here Brian, who has researched this subject extensively, and Kat, who actually has experience in the voice acting industry, to act as more enlightened minds than I. So, Brian, I'm gonna put the first question to you. I remember back when the writer's strike of 2008 happened over DVD residuals, and the whole thing that came with that was that when they negotiated those contracts, they hadn't thought that TV on DVD was going to be a big thing. Is this sort of a similar situation where video games have just kind of exploded over the last several years, that the voice actors are looking at this going, okay, wait a minute, there's a piece of this pie that we deserve here?
Well, the hoo-ha, as you put it,
which, try not to think about the other thing that we call the hoo-ha. Try not to think about that now.
From my understanding is that they actually had a deal in place before, and that had expired late last year. And I think they were just looking at the numbers and kind of seeing where things are going and saying, okay, like, our deal has expired. We want to, and after every deal expires, they want to obviously renegotiate for a new deal. This time, though, they sort of came forward and going, all right, listen, we got some other things we kind of want to do. the medium has changed over the time. We want to sort of stay a step ahead of it. We want to make sure all of our, because it's a union deal, so the union reps are saying we want to make sure the guys we represent are treated fairly, they get the compensation they need for it. And so they sort of put together this little bracket of stuff and gave it to the big hitters and also some of the smaller studios. So any publisher you think, any major publishers, they were at this table, plus some other smaller ones as well. And gave it, going, this is what we want from this. This is what we want to go to move forward. And they all kind of said, all right, that's kind of nice, but the negotiation, they never got past that, you know. They ever got past going, okay, yes, signed, sealed, and delivered. For whatever reason, and unfortunately we'll never know that because we're not in the room with them, they are just sort of back and forth in negotiations. And it's gotten to the point where the union kind of goes, you know, this is not working out in our favor, so we're going to move to the next step, and that is strike authorization. They're not on strike yet. Strike authorization does not mean on strike. And before I continue, I also want to put in complete disclosure about this discussion is that for me, and I don't know about anyone else here, I am going to be completely and totally biased for the voice actors here. So if it seems like I'm beating down the publishers, there's a reason for that. I am a complete and total shill for voice actors. Just want to put that out there. Make sure that's well known. Everyone sort of knows.
Okay. I'm sure that in the running put this episode in the running for the Pulitzer Prize that we were honest about that.
He's biased as fuck. Check.
All right, so Kat, what's your first take on this whole thing?
My first take was that before learning too much about it, going into it, I automatically, because I'm also a big shill for the voice actors, assumed that it was going to straight up be about money. Because the industry has changed so much, and voice actors, they really don't get paid very much. They do a lot of work, and it's very hard work. But I think a lot of people don't perceive it as being very difficult because it looks really fun, and there's no way that something's fun is also hard, right? So I think there's this perception that they shouldn't get paid a lot, but they really should. They should get paid fairly for their work. And they really don't. They still get, video game voice actors still get paid more than anime voice actors, which is why if you decide for some reason that you want to go into voice acting, don't go into anime voice acting, go into video game acting. There's more money there. So I was really surprised when I was researching it and learning that it wasn't just about, you know, royalties and stuff like that. There's a lot more diverse issues at hand that really should be taken very strong consideration into.
Okay, well, I guess since everyone else is doing it, I want to be popular. I'll jump onto the full disclosure train and say, once again, I don't know shit. I'm basically here to ask questions. So, going to something you said, Kat, about some of the diverse issues here. I'm looking at sort of the what we stand to lose page here, and there's one thing that's sort of jumping out at me, and it says, and this is a direct quote from the website. Our employers propose to fine your agent $50,000 to $100,000 if they don't send you out on certain auditions, like atmospheric voices or 1-hour voice sessions. And if your agent chooses not to submit you for certain auditions, the employers want it put into contract language that SAG-AFTRA will revoke the agent's union franchise. Now, again, like I said, I don't know shit. This sounds to me like they're saying that, okay, if they put out a casting call and you don't show up either because you can't make it or you're not interested in the role, then your agent's got to shell out a shitload of money to basically keep you as a client. Am I reading that wrong, or?
There's a lot of legalese in that paragraph, because they also revoke the agent's union franchise. Sounds to me like, say, Nolan North does Drake from Uncharted. He's always been Drake. You know, for 4 games he's been Drake, because there's a 4th game, right?
I stopped paying attention after the second one.
There's several. There are many.
There's several. Okay, let's go with 4. Okay.
Never shall it be Nolan North shall play Drake,
and occasionally Deadpool.
So it sounds like if you don't do this for us, not only will we fine you, we may say, all right, we're not going to use your dude in our major franchise, which is like a guaranteed contract, and that guaranteed contract's gone or something like that. This, unfortunately, is where, for me, things don't make a lot of sense, because this is something that the studios brought into it. Like, this is something the studios are trying to admin to some of what the union and the voice actors are calling for. And to me, I don't know what half of this is, to be quite honest, because I've never been in that situation. My business law dealt way more with contracts and stuff like that, and then it did with agencies and how they work and how agents work and things like that. But like, also that to me sounds like a ridiculous sum of money. $50,000 to $100,000. Like, why? Where did that sum come from? The agencies can't be making that much money either.
And where does that money go? That's what I want to know. Like, is it just does it go towards the game's final budget, or is it just like punitive? Like, okay, we want it because we can get it.
Yeah. So I have no idea. It sounds like it's punitive. It sounds like we will fine you this, and they're just going to take that money and send it, wherever they feel like they want to send it. We need some more donuts in the break room. All right. Well, I got $50,000 from this agency because Norland North doesn't want to be Drake anymore.
Sweet, we can afford Krispy Kreme instead of Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, so like I have zero idea where this sum is going at all, and this sounds pretty close to highway robbery. Like, right. This is I'm going to point a gun to your head. You make sure you do what you need to do, or I'm going to hurt you and take all your stuff. All
right. Well, Kat, are you able to shed any light on this?
No, that level of legalese is shit that's way above my head. Like, I don't get it. It sounds like something that's. You know what it could be? Because it sounds so extreme. It sounds like something that got thrown into a contract as something that they could pull out later to look like they're negotiating. Or like, okay, well, we're willing to play ball. We'll take this out of the contract.
Well, it's the thing that doesn't make any fucking sense. Thanks?
Like, yeah, that's how you negotiate.
All right, there's another point here that stands out to me, which, again, direct read, our employers don't believe that motion and performance capture work is covered under this contract. The companies also propose they be allowed to hire their own employees to play characters in video games without having to join the union.
Ah, okay.
And this is something that's kind of got my hackles kind of raised, because so much of game animation nowadays is done through motion capture. And it's not like, it's all small players who are doing this motion capture. I mean, Andy fucking Serkis, Gollum from Lord of the Rings, who's pretty much a motion capture god, has done mocap work for video games. And I'm just like, okay, are you trying to willing to pay Andy Serkis what is his due? He's Andy fucking Serkis. I mean, he says jump, you say how high. Again, he is God.
Well, this kind of goes back, because the things that they're asking for. The voice and the union stuff. It's performance bonuses, vocal stress work, stunt coordinators on performance of capture, and transparency. So this goes to the stunt coordinators on performance capture volume, where if someone is doing mocap work, they're just asking, hey, we need to have a stunt coordinator here. We need to have someone who knows what they are doing so we don't get hurt in the process. Which sounds very reasonable. If anyone asked me anything, if you were going to do something that you didn't know how to do, wouldn't you ask for an expert to be along with you so you don't screw up and hurt yourself? Now, I'm pretty sure this is probably like a studio by studio basis, where maybe one studio will have and one studio won't, but they're asking for everyone to have it, which again makes sense.
Well, it just seems like a common sense measure to me that if you're going to be doing any kind of stunt work, that you have a stunt coordinator and a medic of some kind on premises. I mean, this is shit that the film industry has taken as just a matter of course for nearly a century.
Yeah, but what they're saying here, what the studio response is that you're here for voices. That's it. Like, if you step into that arena of motion capture, you're stepping into a different arena that we feel you don't qualify what you're supposed to be doing. Therefore, if you just want to do a voice, we can just hire a dude to walk around and just put that voice onto that dude, and then that dude doesn't have to join a union or anything for that because he's just a body.
So, how many voice actors do you think are also do stunts? Because there's a really wonderful actor named Reuben Langdon, and he is the voice of Dante in Devil May Cry, but he's also the mocap for Dante and for about a million other things.
Yeah.
Wow, he did the mocap for Devil May Cry too. For those of you who haven't played Devil May Cry, this man should basically be in a hospital. That's how much stress he's putting on his body.
He's like super martial artist, and he goes to like China and does mocap and all kinds of stuff. He's really incredibly talented. So like, are they telling me that they would be like, oh look, we're just gonna take your famous voice and put it in something, but you're not you're just a voice actor. You're not a body actor. We'll go get some Joe Schmo who's not union to come in and do that. But they have people already like Reuben who comes in to do mocap. So I don't get it.
See, I don't get it either, because I know a couple voice actors who do mocap, who play both sides, and the reason is because they're actors. So if they're already acting as a voice, might as well get them into the whole game itself, because he's already doing a great job of it. Because you can also tell when you have a situation, when you have a voice and then someone's sort of walking around and it doesn't look like their voice is matching with their movements. Now you don't see that very often. There have been a couple of games like that. I wish I could name some of them, but yeah, this is basically this is now they're trying to define. What's happening here is that they want to define what a voice actor is, or what a voice actor can do. And they don't want to have them be both, movement and voice, because that will add in this whole separate stuff, and more, obviously, it goes down to money. It will always boil down to money.
Okay, well now let's leap off that. If I could play devil's advocate for a moment here, do you think that maybe the reason why the developers and publishers don't want to have the voice actors doing stunt work is because if something winds up happening to the voice actors, it would wind up being more expensive to give them the medical care that they need versus some other scab that they got off the street. Do you think that might be where they're coming from with that it's maybe an insurance issue?
Well, that's why they're asking for a stunt coordinator. Like, let's say, because we're going to have to assume a lot of things because we're not a part of the industry, and especially not part of the video game industry. That when in motion captioning does happen, let's say this is a voluntary thing. This is an optional thing, right? Let's say they actually give the voice actors a choice, going, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Would you like to, physically move the character around?" And that person says no because I don't have enough training for it. That's fine. But let's say someone does. Someone says, "Yeah, I want to go in and do it because I think it'll help better the performance, better the game." Then there should be someone there, stunt coordinator, to take care of them, because a lot of bad things can happen. But a stunt coordinator, while they're performing, can make sure safety protocol is followed, so you don't have to have bad accidents. You don't have to worry about the insurance because you're sort of already trying to preempt it and prevent it. But for whatever reason, they're just trying to say, no, you guys don't count when you do performance. You're only here for voice. Okay.
Another point I want to ask about, just for my own clarification, vocal stress, is that say Steve Bloom, sometimes when he does a voice for, say, like Killer Croc or not Grunt, he speaks like that kind of really low growl for hours on end.
Vocal stress can be anything. There's a lot of stuff where you're doing nothing but screaming and shouting, and that can do temporary or permanent damage to your voice. So yeah, some roles are like, you can come in, if you're just like, oh, I took an arrow to the knee, that's no big deal. It's not going to cause you a lot of vocal stress or do any kind of damage to your voice to just come in and do some easy stuff. But if you have a lot of, like a fighting game, and you have a lot of yelling to do, and you're yelling for hours and hours, you need breaks. There really needs to be some sort of mandatory break period, either during the day or absolutely can't work the next day, to give yourself time to recover, because when you're a voice actor, your voice is your instrument. It's not something you can, it's not like something you can just put away and then bring back the next day and it's perfectly fine. It needs rest.
Yeah, and that's what they're asking for. They said we want a limit on stressful voice. Like, we can't do 4 or 5 hour sessions. Maybe we can do 2. Gives us enough time, gives us a break, we can recover, and then and then next session 2 hours, and if they want to go more, they should get stunt pay for it. Which, it sounds silly to say out loud, like stunt pay for voice acting. Yes, it makes sense because of what they're doing. Remember that whole the documentary we talked about? I Know That Voice, and they kind of went in the whole thing of video games recording sessions that you would have to do it at the end of the week if you try to schedule it, because it would be so long and so demanding on your voice that you would need a weekend or even more to just recover from it. Like, that sounds hazardous. That sounds bad. They should get something out of that, or at least limit the dangers of losing said voice to 2 hours. Again,
Yeah.
To me, this sounds reasonable.
Yeah, some sort of hazard pay. So if you've never done voice acting before, think about the last time you went to a concert and you were screaming and you were having fun, and then the next day you couldn't talk. So it's like that. You're using your voice way more than you should, and there are consequences for that. And because that is your instrument, that is your moneymaker right there. So if an employer is pushing you beyond your limits, then they are taking away your opportunities to make money. And they don't really seem to care all that much. And that's where they need more, assurances that, yes, we're going to have breaks and we're going to, like if we have to come back in 2 days to record more, then that's what we need. And if we have to push it, then we get paid more to compensate for the time lost that you need to spend recovering.
Okay. Now, so if let's just say hypothetically you the hazard pay or you got the limited recording sessions, which do you think would be the more preferable option?
I would love to have both, just because you really never know, and that kind of goes towards their other thing for transparency. Like, if you kind of know ahead of time what you're doing and how you do it, you can prepare, and you can last those 2 sessions and anything like that, and you won't have to worry about like a hazard pay or anything like that. It needs to be a combination, because you said it yourself, it sounds like at times when these guys do their voices, they're gargling marbles or they're gargling spikes, and like that sounds great, but you can't even imagine what pain they have to go through the next day.
Well, the reason why I ask is because I'm at, say, limiting the recording sessions, and yes, it's a great idea, but again, playing devil's advocate, I can see how with some games that could increase production time and thus the budget considerably. Like, for example, let's look at David Hayter versus Kiefer Sutherland as Snake in Metal Gear Solid. David Hayter, when he was doing the voice, the kind of like low, real growl. I can imagine him doing that for hours and hours on end with a script the size of the Bible, and doing horrendous damage on his voice. But at the same time, he's got so much material that he had to cover that if he wound up limiting the length of the recording sessions, I could see that extending the production time considerably. Again, this is not me arguing in favor of the studios. This is just me kind of just throwing something out there to kind of just play devil's advocate for a moment. So, do you think maybe that? I mean, how do you see if they do limited recording sessions? How do you see that affecting production on the games themselves?
Well, I think it's quite a simple solution. Is that the game creators need to do a better job of scheduling. It's really that simple. Like, I know a lot of stuff gets crunched for time, but I feel like the stuff that does get crunched for time is more of the graphics and that sort of thing, because voice acting, like, most sessions only go for like 1 or 2 days, depending on who it is and how big the character is. Like, the voice acting is such a small chunk of what takes up time. I don't really think that the voice acting for at least for a video game, I don't think voice acting has ever pushed it past its, you know, its release date or anything like that. There's so many other issues that go into it. So I think it should really be up to the production company to go, oh, look, we have a lot of screaming going on in here. Everybody's screaming all the time. We better make sure that we get started on this voice acting here and make sure that each one of these actors who comes in has this much time to do it, because it's gonna be brutal. And if they are given adequate rest period, like maybe a day on, a day off, a day on, a day, something like that, then you're still spending the same amount of time in the studio as you would if they were doing it all, you know, like 2 days in a row. You'd be still same amount of time in the studio, just the difference of a day.
Pretty much. It would force the industry, at least the background part of it, at least the development part of it, they might have to change a few things around. They might have to, maybe it will extend time, maybe it won't. It really depends on the project they're going for and how big and epic and scale of it it's going to be. You know, it's not, is it like Assassin's Creed where you have to release one every year because we're stupid like that? Or is it going to be like a Halo game where you have 4 years or 5 years in between games where you can put stuff together? You know, it really depends on who is doing it and how they're setting it up. And if worse comes to worse, yeah, they will probably have to change the ways to do it to be something slightly bit more efficient.
Well, speaking as someone who's been kind of disappointed with a lot of those recent, you know, a new installment every year series, yeah, anything that leads them to take a little more time and put a little more thought into production, yeah, that can only be a good thing in my book. One thing that I feel needs to be pointed out, so that, you know, people listening to this just go, oh, well, they're just greedy because they want back-end pay on everything. That the back-end pay they're really only asking for on, like, the really big multi-million sellers. The website here says that they are only asking for a reasonable performance, as they say, for every 2 million copies or downloads sold. So this isn't like some say, like, you know, they put, say, you know, for example, a game like Gone Home or something. You're not looking for royalties based on that. They're just looking for the big stuff like Halo, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty. You know, the stuff that sells millions upon millions of units.
It's what's actually kind of interesting about that in their performance bonus, what they're asking for is that, first off, they added downloads. Good on them. Just because that would be a major loophole to miss, especially since digital is getting pretty big. The second is that they want, every 2 million, but it's capped at 8 million units / downloads. Or if it's like a WoW game or something like that, where you need subscribers, at least 8 million subscribers. It's capped. So the idea is that you'd get a bonus at 2 million, 4 million, 6 million, 8 million, and anything above that, you've already got your bonuses for. So let's say, hey, Star Wars Battlefront, that's been in the news lately. Let's talk about that. Let's say, you know, that one sells pretty well and actually sells out 19 million. Well, the voice actors get their due 4 times over, and then everything else goes back to the publisher, you know? And that's not really a bad system. Actually pretty easily doable. And easy to keep track of. Now, I don't know if they want combined units and downloads. That's another issue altogether. That's some fucking math right there, and I really do not want to get into a math problem right now.
Okay. So now my next question I want to throw out. A lot of games aren't actually produced here in America. Games like, especially like, you know, again, Metal Gear, or the big fish in the pond, Final Fantasy. I think that's probably the biggest one in terms of voice acting and for Japanese import games. How do you think, if these negotiations went through and some of these measures were put in place, how do you think the production and translation and eventual publishing of those games would be affected?
I was just thinking about Kingdom Hearts for a second there. I was like, dude, Kingdom Hearts is Disney. That's something else entirely. That's a beast of its own. And then I'm like, oh no, we said Final Fantasy, not Kingdom Hearts. Okay, that is something different.
Well, Kingdom Hearts falls under the Final Fantasy umbrella.
Yes, but the way that it's done is totally, like, so for example, Kingdom Hearts has huge names in it. like big Hollywood actor types, and then it's got regular voice actors who do cartoons and video games and stuff like that. There's such a huge difference between the people who are working on it. It's really its own beast, because like a regular video game release might have like one big name in it, like Nathan Fillion or something like that. Maybe Nathan Fillion plays the main character, and then everyone else is, generic anime video game voice actor types. Whereas this is like, Kingdom Hearts is like, and here's this guy from this TV show, and this guy from this TV show, and then this really big Hollywood starlet, and then this kid actor, and then this person, and it's like everybody. Yeah, plus Christopher Lee and Leonard Nimoy, and you're like, what?
I think it's funny that she mentioned Nathan Fillion just because I've been watching Halo 5 videos, and she's like, here's Nathan Fillion, big star, and then all these video game guys. I was like, she's played Halo 5.
No,
I haven't. But I remembered Nathan Fillion was in a video game.
He's in 2. He came out in Destiny last year, and now he's in Halo.
She was imagining the Firefly video game that got canceled halfway through development due to lack of interest. I'm just making that up. I don't know if there was ever actually a Firefly game. But anyway, the question still remains unanswered. How do you think that the publishing of those games and the development of those games would be affected?
Well, I think it just depends on where they're developed. Like, if they're developed in the U.S., they have to follow our agreement and things like that. If they're developed overseas and then brought over and localized and translated and then I think it would still follow the same rules. Now that probably is a little bit easier because all you're doing at that point, because the animation's done and things like that, all you're doing is a translation, sort of like I guess anime. So you're redubbing it, kind of thing.
Right,
so
you're lip matching and stuff like that.
So you're kind of following under that category. But like when she mentioned Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom Hearts was developed here and then sent over to Japan, just because I remember. The voice actor who played Goofy, and he's like the one who's played Goofy for Disney for last like 3 generations or something like that, would sit down and he would listen to the other actors from across the world do the Goofy laugh or the Goofy yell, and he was just taken aback by it. That might be on YouTube somewhere. Look that up. Goofy Kingdom Hearts voice acting, because it's just the Japanese Goofy laugh is pretty hysterical and kind of creepy. Like, he broke it down almost mathematically.
Just sort of pointing over. I assure you, sir, Kingdom Hearts was not developed in the United States.
Well, the voices were. The voices were recorded here first.
The American voices here, but they don't lip match like at all.
Yeah.
It's really bad to watch. Like, as an anime fan who has some expectation of lip flap matching, to watch my roommate playing Kingdom Hearts and to see how those lip flaps for the Americans do not match up.
But no, the script in the game itself were in fact developed in Japan. So, so now we've looked at sort of some of the requests that are being made and some of the opposition's requests. So now sort of let's kind of take a look at a worst case scenario here. Let's say the worst case scenario, the nuke has gone off and the strike goes through. What are some of the ramifications that would impact the gaming industry from that strike?
First off, there would be no actors. Anything that was currently in production, like, it would be halted. And if you think that this is one of those things where, we could just go grab anyone off the street to come in and do voices, it is not so. Voice acting is something that takes a lot of time. It is basically an art form. And for the most part, you have to be union in the state of California. So all that production work and all those studios that are out in California have to be SAG. So you would lose your entire pool. So anybody who's doing a video game is pretty much doing it out of California, and you would no longer have any actors to work with. That would be really rough. Especially on all of these video games, say like Uncharted, that have the same recurring characters who have very distinctive voices that you don't want to lose that character. So yeah, that would be ugly.
Yeah, pretty much. You would see, if they wanted to, a lot of silent protagonists. Like, they can still make games. They just won't have voices.
Everyone is Cloud.
Yeah, everyone's Gordon Freeman. Everyone's, is it Shell from Portal?
Chell.
But, yeah, that's everything she said is correct. That's exactly what happened. Because that's the way strikes happen. Is that whenever, like, it's okayed or that happens, it shuts down basically immediately. I don't know. I don't think they can get scabs in, using an old term, of like non-union workers, because you have to be. So you're down to basically, you can still develop the game, but you can't finish it because all your characters can't talk anymore. You know, maybe you never know. I know a lot of people complain about the cycles of games right now. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. You know, maybe we had a voice actor strike. Everyone could go, all right, let's clear out some of these bugs.
And there's the possibility that they might move the at least the sound production or the voiceover production to another area. I don't know as much about video game production because I don't think there are a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of studios that I know of. I'm sure there are studios in other states other than California for video games, but I don't know enough about them. But I'm assuming there are sound studios somewhere outside of the state that they could use if they so desired. So, for example, half of the anime voice acting is in California, the other half is in Texas. So, you know, potentially you could see something like, oh, well, there's sound studios here we could use, and say, like, these anime voice actors over here don't have to be SAG. Could we get them to come in and do this or that in the case of a strike? I don't know what kind of contracts they have going on. They would have to violate every contract in the world to do something like that. It would be bad.
Yeah, it's a whole mess. Like, it would just turn everything upside down on its head to the point where I don't know how much they can actually get done without spending more money than it would be to then okay this deal. You know, they would probably spend way more doing it that way than okaying this deal, and in the long run they'll probably realize that and then say, all right, yeah, we'll do this, or however it goes. And again, they've still been negotiating. Like, they got the authorization to go like early October, and here we are moving into November, and I haven't heard anything else about it yet. So I can only assume that they've just been negotiating like day on and day off, and I don't know how well or not well it's going.
Right, which is why we haven't talked about it before, because it's not exactly new news or anything, but we've been kind of biding our time waiting to see if something would come of it. And, you know, they gave the authorization to strike, but they haven't gone on strike yet. We haven't really heard much news, so right now we're all just speculating.
Yeah, true. You want to hear a funny thing? Their union needed at least 70% of their union members to vote yes to get strike authorization, and that's just, we'll be okay if we strike. They got 97% of their people to vote yes.
Hot damn.
To put this into contrast, when the writer's strike happened, in the writer's strike union in their guild, to get strike authorization, they needed 50%. They got 52 when the writer's strike happened. So something tells me some shit went down.
Yeah,
you know?
and this is, again, our bias there, but I don't really feel like what they're asking for is unreasonable, and they're willing to negotiate. So it kind of seems like it's easy to rally everyone around the ideas that they're trying to put forward because they're so reasonable. Their demands aren't very much. Their demands aren't very demanding.
I also think this group, this union, has way better leadership than the writers' union. Because the writers' union, their leadership when that strike happened, that dude was kind of a moron.
I also feel like this is a smaller, tight-knit group.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't like, oh, this person works over on that show, and that person works over on that show, and these writers write this kind of stuff. And these are all actors who work in the same buildings, who work on similar shows or similar whatevers. They're all in the exact same kind of business. Not that writers aren't in the business of writing, but, like, there's a huge difference between writing for a drama and writing for a sitcom kind of stuff. These are all people who work in the exact same studio.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're kind of start winding this down. So I guess my final question is, what do you see happening with this? Do you think the strike is going to occur, or like if you had to place a bet on what was going to happen, where would you put your dollar?
You ever heard the phrase "no news is sometimes good news"? I feel like the less we hear about it, the better it's going to be. But if I go to Twitter again, the reason I found out this was even happening is because I visited my Twitter account, which I do once every like 3 weeks, and I follow a bunch of voice actors on there. And that's how I sort of noticed when it was happening, because they had like a hashtag going up, and everyone was retweeting everybody about it. And that's how I brought it up to the show. If I go to Twitter again and like that hashtag pops up again, I'm going to go, uh-oh, something bad's about to happen. But until that, right now, I think if we don't hear anything, that means progress might be being made.
So we're pretty much at that stage in the cartoon where the fuse on the bomb has burned out, and we're just waiting to see if it's going to blow or not.
Yeah, we're waiting to see if it comes back up, or basically if it explodes. I have no way of guessing like a percent-wise of how well or not well it will go. The video game publishers from EA to Activision, Disney, the last couple of years they've been taking a huge PR beating for one reason or another. And this is probably a one they don't want to go through again, or like add on to the pile. So I have no real idea how things are going to work.
Okay, Kat, what about you? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't think it'll get as far. I don't think they'll strike. I think, and maybe that's a little optimistic, but I really feel like, and I know it's a very wealthy area and everything, but I don't think the video game industry has the pull to get away with it, with having all of their actors go on strike. Their production times are way too short. Like they don't have the they have no way of getting people to fill in. They have to be willing to negotiate.
Yeah, and the budgets on these games, like we're talking the Assassin's Creeds and the Call of Duties. The budgets on these games are already so huge, and they already have to sell so many copies at a certain time to turn a profit. That to jeopardize that by having to delay the game because of a voice actor strike, I mean, I could honestly see some publishers going out of business because of that.
Right. So even though they are a very powerful, very popular industry that generates fucking license to print money, I don't think they have the pull to actually let them go into strike and then still be able to, get their product out. Because again, this is, a lot of stuff that's going on in California. You're pretty much not allowed to do voice acting there without being SAG. So to piss off SAG is just not something that you can do. And then these voice actors are, I don't want to say they're the heart and soul of the game, but they're the faces that when we go to conventions, we're like, oh my God, that's that voice actor. Like, that's where we're at, where fans of video games and stuff like that, we know what the voice actors look like, even though to us, they're just voices. So we go, like, we love our voice actors. We are very passionate about these people because a lot of them have been in the industry for a very, very long time, and we love and adore them. So we don't want anything bad to happen to them. So it would really behoove the gaming industry not to screw over its voice actors, because that is telling your fan base, the people who are going to be the ones to buy your game, that you don't care about their experience. And so if we love our actors, we want them to have a good time doing it. We want them to, enjoy themselves while we enjoy them. So it's like, you don't want to piss off your fan base because they're the ones who are going to shell out money.
Can I just point out the irony in the person talking about the passion that video game fans have for their voice actors is the person who plays maybe one video game a year?
I know, it's bad, but I understand because I'm an anime fan, and it's the same thing. We love our voice actors. I think we probably love our voice actors, I dare say, more than video game fans do, because we have a much smaller pool. Anyway,
Wow, you sound really pained when you said that.
anyway, I think one of the hardest negotiating points is going to be the assurances, like not even the getting somebody in to supervise this or that. It's the fact that the actors want to know what they're voicing. And it's such a tricky area because there are NDAs and nobody wants information to get leaked, because everybody wants to keep it under wraps. And so actors will go into something and they won't know the title of what they're doing. And that's fine. They might not know the character name, and that's fine. But they're given such limited information that they don't know how strenuous a job is going to be. And to me, that's going to probably be one of the harder points to negotiate, because the industry wants so much secrecy going into this. I mean, think about the level of secrecy that has gone into protecting The Force Awakens so that people don't get spoilers. We don't know shit about this movie. So that's the level of secrecy that everybody wants for their projects. They want to be in control of the amount of information that gets out. And the more people who know stuff is the more likelihood that something is going to get out. So I see that as being a really tough negotiation point, just because they want to keep everything under wraps. But I think that they're going to have to negotiate it no matter what.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. I think that pretty much covers all the ground. So, all right. Well, that's about all the time we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. So, as always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
And I'm Brian, and I have nothing witty to add like John usually does. So, goodbye, everybody.
We'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.